They have a saying on Keldara Prime: kill the dragon in the egg, or do not kill it at all. They should have listened to their own proverb. My name is Sarah Ashcroft. I am 32 years old. I am standing on the bridge of a warship called the Hearthstone Reborn, and in exactly 9 minutes, I am going to do something that every species in this galaxy believes is impossible. I am going to bring fire to the ones who burned my world. But before I do, I want you to understand how I got here. I want you to understand what a dragon really is. I was born on a colony world called Hearthstone, out in the Valen Reach, far from the center of everything. It was a small world, green hills, wide rivers, orange skies at sunset, that made the whole planet look like it was glowing from inside. Humans had been in the galaxy for only a few generations by then, and we were still learning how things worked out here among the older species. We did not have an empire. We did not have a great fleet. We had 43 colony worlds scattered across the spiral arm, and on each of those worlds, we did what humans have always done. We built homes. We raised families. We loved each other so hard that it confused every alien species watching us. They called our colonies nest worlds. They called us dragons, not because we were powerful, not because we breathed fire, or had scales, or flew through space on wings. They called us that because of the way we protected our young, because of the way a human mother would stand between her child and a monster without hesitation. Because when you threatened one of us, all of us turned to face you. That kind of loyalty did not exist anywhere else in the galaxy. The Keldari especially could not understand it. The Keldari were an insectoid species, billions of them linked together through a single governing intelligence called the High Calculus. They did not have families. They did not have names. Every Keldari was a piece of a machine, and the machine made every decision based on numbers, probability, and cold logic. The High Calculus looked at humanity and ran its projections. It calculated that in 300 years, humans would be the most influential species in the spiral arm. Not through conquest, through something worse. From their perspective, through bonding, through community, through the simple, stubborn human habit of caring about each other and never, ever giving up. The calculus decided that the logical response was to remove us from the equation entirely. I was 6 years old the night the sky turned orange for the wrong reason. I remember sitting on the floor of our kitchen, drawing pictures of the river outside, when the ground shook so hard that the walls cracked. My mother grabbed me before I could even cry. She carried me through the hallway, through the back door, across the yard to the cargo depot where my father worked. The air smelled like burning metal. The sky was full of light, but it was not the sunset. It was plasma fire raining down from Keldari warships in orbit. My father was already at the depot. He had activated the colony distress beacon, sending a signal out into the void, hoping someone would hear. My mother put me inside a cargo pod. It was small, cold, and meant for shipping ore, not carrying a child. She strapped me in. She put her hand on my face, and she said the words that have lived inside my chest for 26 years. Survive, little dragon. That is all you have to do. Just survive. Then she closed the pod. I heard the launch sequence. I felt the push of thrust, and through the tiny viewport, I watched my world die. Hearthstone was swallowed by fire. Every building, every river, every hill I had ever known turned to ash and light. I learned later that all 43 nest worlds were hit at the same time, a coordinated strike across the entire spiral arm. 11.2 billion human beings, gone in a single night. The Keldari were thorough. They were efficient. They were everything their calculus told them to be. But they miscounted the escape pods. A Valith merchant convoy found me 3 weeks later, drifting in the dark between stars. The captain, a tall amphibian named Onra, opened my pod expecting to find salvageable cargo. Instead, he found a starving, half-conscious child holding a broken communicator that was still playing her mother's last message on a loop. Onra looked at me for a long time. Then he wrapped me in a thermal blanket, carried me to the med bay, and listed me as salvage in his cargo manifest so the Keldari patrols would not find me. That is how my second life began. I grew up on the edges of civilization, fringe stations, smuggler ports, the underdecks of trade ships that smelled like engine grease and alien spices. I learned to hide what I was. Humans were hunted. The Keldari had placed a bounty on our DNA. Any species caught harboring a human faced sanctions, blockades, or worse. So I filed my teeth flat. Because humans were the only species in the sector with canines, and the Keldari called us fang mouths. I wore lenses to hide the color of my eyes. I learned to speak the Valith trade language without any accent. I became invisible. But I was not alone. Scattered across the galaxy, roughly 40,000 humans had survived. Most were crews of deep space ships that had been away from the nest worlds during the purge. They were broken, scattered, and afraid. But they were alive, and every single one of them remembered. By the time I was 14, I had found my way to a weapons engineer named Torak, a silicon-based Tauran who had no love for the Keldari and a deep respect for anyone stubborn enough to keep breathing when the universe wanted them dead. Torak taught me how machines worked, how to take them apart, how to build something new from the wreckage of something old. And I discovered something about Keldari technology that changed everything. Their systems were brilliant, elegant, efficient, but they all shared one fatal assumption. They assumed that no operator would ever act against their own survival. No Keldari would ever ram a ship into an enemy. No Keldari would ever overload a reactor knowing it would consume them too. Their entire military doctrine was built on the certainty that every individual unit would prioritize its own preservation. Humans do not work that way. A human will walk into fire for someone they love. A human will give up everything, even their own life, if it means the person beside them gets to keep theirs. The Keldari had no variable for that, and I was going to make them pay for that blind spot. At 20, I sent a signal on the old Hearthstone emergency frequency, the same frequency my father had used the night of the purge. The message was 3 words long. The nest remembers. They came, from hidden corners of the galaxy, from stations where they had been pretending to be something other than human, from ships that had been running for 14 years. They came. 40,000 became 42,000, as hidden survivors revealed themselves. Families reunited. Strangers who shared nothing but their species, embraced each other, and wept. An elder named Graves, who had been the colonial archivist on one of the nest worlds, brought me a data crystal. On it were the names of every human who had died in the purge, all 11.2 billion of them. I installed that crystal in the navigation computer of my ship. The dead would ride with us. It took 8 more years to build a fleet. We salvaged ships from junkyards. We stole Keldari tech from unguarded outposts. A few sympathetic alien species, tired of living under the Dominion's shadow, donated vessels and supplies. When we were done, we had 300 ships. The Keldari had 40,000. Every military analyst in the galaxy would have called our plan impossible. And by any rational calculation, they would have been right. But the difference between a Keldari crew and a human crew is something no calculation can capture. A Keldari fights because the hive determines it is optimal. A human fights because the person standing next to them is the most important thing in the universe. That is not a weakness. That is the most dangerous force in existence. We dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Keldara system on a Tuesday morning, Galactic Standard Time. 300 ships against the homeworld of a civilization that controlled half the spiral arm. The high calculus detected us immediately. I imagine it was confused. The numbers did not support an attack. No rational species would attempt this. I smiled when I thought about that, because that is the thing about dragons. We were never rational. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Keldari ships moved in perfect coordination. Every vessel linked to the calculus. Every maneuver optimized for maximum efficiency. They were beautiful to watch, the way a machine is beautiful. Precise, cold, predictable. We were none of those things. A frigate captain named Torres drove his ship directly into the shield generator of a Keldari carrier, creating an opening in their formation. As he made his run, he broadcast a single word over the open channel. His daughter's name, Elena. A team of engineers on another ship manually redirected a captured Keldari energy weapon and turned it back against the Dominion fleet. They knew the feedback pulse would take them with it. They did it anyway. One of them was singing an old Earth lullaby as the light consumed them. The calculus could not process what it was seeing. It had predicted that we would retreat after losing 30% of our fleet. We had lost 40%, and we were accelerating. It ran projection after projection. In every model, we should have surrendered. In every model, we should have been finished. But we were still coming. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Caldari High Calculus generated a query it had never produced before. Why do they keep fighting? No answer came. Because the answer is not a number. It is not a strategy. It is the look on a mother's face when she puts her child in a pod and says survive. It is the weight of 11 billion names carried in a data crystal next to your heart. It is love. And hive minds do not have a variable for love. The calculus began issuing contradictory orders. The Caldari fleet fell into chaos. I led a ground team to the surface of Caldara Prime. Our target was the calculus core, the central processing nexus that held the entire Dominion together. I want to be clear about something. We did not go there to do what they had done to us. I told my people before we landed, we are not them. We will never be them. We fought our way to the core chamber. I was wounded. My squad was down to 3. But we made it. And when I stood in front of that massive crystalline network, pulsing with 10,000 years of cold blue logic, it spoke to me. You are one, it said. We eliminated 11 billion. How are you here? I took out my communicator. The same broken device I had been holding in that cargo pod 26 years ago. I played my mother's message one last time. Her voice filled the chamber, warm and fierce, and full of everything the calculus could never understand. Then I answered, because you only have to miss one. I destroyed the core, not the species, the system. Without the calculus, the Caldari became individuals for the first time in millennia. Confused, frightened, suddenly alone in their own minds. Some of them surrendered, some of them retreated. None of them were a dominion anymore. That was 5 years ago. Today I am standing on the surface of a planet called New Hearthstone. The sky is not orange yet. The sun is still climbing. But it will be. Around me, children are running through the grass. The first generation born free. Born without having to file their teeth or hide their eyes. Born knowing exactly what they are. I still carry the data crystal. 11.2 billion names. I will carry it until the day I die, and then someone else will carry it after me. Because that is what dragons do. We remember. Every name, every face, every world that burned. We hold it all inside us, and we turn it into something the darkness cannot touch. The galaxy learned something the night we came for Caldara Prime. You can burn every nest. You can break every egg. You can hunt every dragon to the edges of the void. But if even one hatchling survives, just one, it will grow. It will remember. And it will come for you with fire in its blood and 11 billion ghosts at its back. My mother told me to survive. I did more than that. I made sure no one will ever have to survive alone again.